And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Friday, March 20th. I'm Dean Obidala. I'm in New York. We're on lockdown, but still, I'm here to be your MBF. Other states, Illinois, and Richard email me right away. Other states are being locked down. Maybe we should call the show Quarantine with Dean. How about that? Quarantine with Dean. We're all self-quarantining and together with me. But here's the good news, and I'm really excited to play this clip for everyone. Good news is, folks, only 12 days until this is all over. That's what I promised us, February 10th. This would all end in 12 days. Let's remind them, Matt, with clip number 1. Oh, we're in great shape. So, folks, how many more days? 11 days. It's going to be great for all of us. It's going to be a situation where it's not going to end. 12 more days. What can we do, my friends? So we're talking about the coronavirus, of course, the latest news with it, and also the intersection with politics. During the show, it was breaking news that Senator Richard Burr, now another Republican as well, were apparently insider trading on the knowledge about the classified briefings on what was coming forward. But also with Richard Burr, there's also another level to this, and that is the fact that Richard Burr told a private industry meeting of well-heeled contributors and donors about the real threat without telling the public. But first, let's talk about what happened today. Donald Trump had his typical press conference, which now has become really his campaign rally/infomercials for himself. But he had a meltdown. At one point, it got so bad, idiotic, ridiculous comments. Dr. Anthony Fauci, standing behind him, literally, I'm not kidding, you can look it up, folks, literally facepalm. To put it in perspective, that means a doctor who's an infectious disease expert, like Dr. Fauci, touched his face during a pandemic because Trump's comments were that idiotic. That's how bad. I'm not even kidding. Go look it up. You can see him literally touching his face palming as Trump was saying something about the deep state. Now, a couple of fact things here. Donald Trump bragged today that we are doing better than any other country in combating the coronavirus. That's his selling point. Here's the reality. 164 nations right now have a coronavirus outbreak. How does the U.S. compare to the 164 other countries? We have the 5th most number of infected people, at a little over 17,000. We are right behind Iran, which is horrific what's going on in Iran. And India has over 1 billion people. They have 244 cases as of now. But we are just jumping in numbers, and it's only because testing was not done for weeks and weeks and weeks. And that's the biggest failing of this. Historians look like they will look at the Trump administration for their failing to test for weeks and weeks, letting this spread. And as a reminder, February 26th, Donald Trump bragged we get 15 cases. We have now 17,400, just checked right before we went on air. Donald Trump yesterday talked about having the FDA approved a malaria drug to be used for treating the coronavirus. That was a lie. They had not approved it. And then today, Donald Trump got upset when NBC reporter Peter Alexander pressed him on that and asked him about the fact that you were saying yesterday it was approved, and it's not approved. But Peter was being very respectful. Jim Acosta at CNN, he's not as combative at all. Asking questions, fact-checking, that's what you do. Here's clip number 2, some of that. He's a smart guy. He also said, what the hell do you have to lose? This is people's health you're dealing with, not hunches. But Trump got upset because Peter Alexander followed up and literally was giving him a softball question, folks. You'll hear it. A very simple question, giving him a chance to tell the American people, if you're afraid, here's my soother in chief. But I believe Donald Trump got upset that Peter Alexander cited statistics. How many people are sick right now? How many have died? And Donald Trump, as we know, has done his best to try to hide those numbers. He told us weeks ago when the cruise had infected people, he didn't want to bring them to the U.S. soil because he liked the numbers where they are. That's the only explanation for why Trump freaked out at Peter Alexander and slammed him. And this went viral. Here's clip number 3. Clip number 3. Listen to him berate Peter Alexander. All Peter Alexander did was say there are 14,000 infected people and nearly 200 dead. In fact, since this afternoon, we're up to 17,000 infected. But Donald Trump doesn't want the American people to know the truth. He wants these press conferences to essentially be campaign rallies where it's just cheering him. You're doing a great job. That's what Mike Pence says to him. Steve Mnuchin. You're doing a great job, Mr. President. And the president said this and that. That's all. These are not press conferences in Trump's view. He wants to hide the truth, just like the leader of China. And listen to him and ask yourself, can we not do far, far better as a nation for a president than this orange failure? Horrific, horrific. But then let's get to the story that we were talking about last night. It was breaking last night. We learned more now. And there's 2 parts to this. With Richard Burr, the Republican senator from North Carolina, the chair of the Senate Intel Committee. There's 2 parts. There's the insider trading part we'll get to in a second. But to me, there's something even potentially more sinister. Because insider trading is a crime, it's a felony, but it's sort of victimless on some level. This has potential victims, the first part of this. What we learned yesterday from NPR's reporting, and they got a secret audio recording, and now I have some of that. We'll play a little bit of it. February 27th. Almost a month ago. There's Richard Burr speaking at a luncheon in D.C. at a social club called the Capitol Hill Club. And small group of wealthy there. And he told them to prepare economic and societal effects of the coronavirus. And I want to play a clip he told them. Listen very carefully. And by the way, February 27th is the day after Donald Trump gave his press conference appointing Mike Pence. So here is clip number 3. It is more akin to the 1918 pandemic, which is known by most as the Spanish flu. That killed 50 million. It killed nearly 700,000 Americans in 1918. So there is Richard Burr raising the alarms in a very honest, very transparent way. He went on to warn these business executives and well-connected people that their companies should be aware of the fact of how this could impact their business. He even talked with the military. Military hospitals are going to be needed. Tents going to be set up on the ground somewhere. It's going to be a decision the President and the Department of Defense is going to make. We're going to have medical professionals supplemented by what he views as military staff. This was February 27th, folks. Him warning about 70,000 Americans dying, perhaps, if it's like the Spanish flu. He didn't tell the public that. At no time did he have a press conference and say that. At no time did he write an op-ed warning that. And you know what makes it worse is what Donald did the day before and the day after, which to me shows if Richard Burr had any sense of responsibility and patriotism, he would have held a press conference himself to correct what Donald Trump had said. It also says something else. Let's be very clear. If Richard on February 27th, then there's no doubt Donald Trump knew all of that as well. Which spectrum of, is Trump incompetent or sinister? Did he simply not know what he was doing and do a horrible job? Or did he know the risk and keep it from us because he didn't want to hurt the stock market and the economy? We are now closer and closer to this was sinister, that this is not incompetence, but manslaughter. But here, let me remind you, there's Richard Burr, Senate Intel Chair, tells the group February 27th. This is like 1918 flip. The day before Donald Trump at his press conference. And here's Donald Trump first about the coronavirus. We're going down, not up. We're going down, very seriously down, not up. And then he added this about the 10 cases we had. Number 6, please. So there's Donald Trump the day before. Richard Burr says to an audience there, this is more akin to the 1918 pandemic. The day before. The day after Richard Burr's statement, here's Donald Trump telling his rally about his view of the virus. Clip number 7, please. Richard Burr, the day before that, said this is akin to the 1918 pandemic and is unlike any flu we've seen. Why did Richard Burr get up and have a press conference? He is the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Why didn't he have a press conference to correct it? If he did not want to say, I'm correcting Donald Trump, he could have simply had a press conference because he's an American. He's a patriot. Because he wants you to know as a public servant that you and your family are facing. Did he do that? No. He was silent. Else, while he didn't warn us, he sold stock. That's what we learn now. This is wartime profiteering. What we learned, and just to give you a step back, first of all, Reuters was reporting the time Richard Burr sold the stock in mid-February, he was getting briefings as the chair of Senate Intel, and we know very specifically now from reporting on January 24th, Richard Burr got a briefing, a private Senate briefing on the seriousness of the coronavirus, and clearly he got many more after that because he warned those people very clearly without any kind of ambiguity about what the threat was and how bad it could be. And we also learned last night that Kelly Loeffler, a new Republican senator from Georgia, recently appointed, she received the same briefing, and she sold large amounts of her personal stock holdings, cashing in right before the market declined, just like Richard Burr. Richard Burr sold over $1 million of stocks, apparently, it's $1. Before the stock market collapsed. And Loeffler, according to Daily Beast reporting, she traded between $1.2 million starting the very day of the briefing that she got January 24th. And then she bought stock in a biotech company, a teleworking company, I should say, that deals with crises. So she's made money. Not only she didn't lose money, she made money on this. Now, people talk about Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California. At the outset, let me say, if it is shown that Dianne Feinstein in any way profited off her position, she should resign and be criminally prosecuted, like Richard Burr and Kelly Loeffler. However, the facts of Dianne Feinstein do not show that now. And again, if they do, there's no two standards. There's no standard for Democrats and Republicans when it comes to violating the law. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not a Trump. I believe in the rule of law. But with Dianne Feinstein, what we know, first, she didn't attend the January 4th briefing. But even if she knew about everything, second, her stock was a blind trust, meaning she didn't make decisions to sell, and her transaction actually lost money because her trust was selling stocks in biotech companies that have gone up since. So that was really bad insider trading. But still, if you trade on classified information, it would be. And if you want to know why, there's a law called the Stock Act, S-T-O-C-K. And the idea was passed in 2012. The purpose of the Stock Act is very clear. That Congress, federal employees, the president, and certain other members of the executive branch inside trading. Simply, they can't get that they're only getting because of position. That is not public yet. And then buyers' stocks to their benefit. That would be a felony. Here's the little rub in all of this. That law passed the Senate in 2096-3. Want to guess who one of the 3 senators were who voted against the Stock Act? If you guess Richard Burr, you win 100. Richard Burr, one of the 3, voted against this. Now, by the way, a lot of people talk about Martha Stewart, and she went to jail for her trading. I don't want to be a lawyer here and be technical, but she was not convicted of insider trading. Actually, there was not enough evidence. She was charged with insider trading. There was not enough evidence to prosecute her on that, and the judge dismissed it mid-trial. She was convicted of obstruction of justice and lying during the investigation and conspiracy. So that's why she went to jail. But in any event, so my question to you, what is worse in your view? Richard Burr telling well-connected donors and not telling America and not correcting Donald Trump, or Richard Burr profiting off inside information and buying, selling stock so he has more money? What do you think is worse? Because for me, it is Richard Burr, the first part. The second part, the system. And I know that, forget Bill Barr, you won't do anything. But not telling the American people, but telling well-connected constituents about the risk of this virus, to me, is inexcusable. And add to that, because Donald Trump is the leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump is the president, he is the head of the federal government. If Richard Burr knew this February 27th, Donald Trump knew this, and he lied to the American people just the same. Over and over and over, he lied. This is where we stand. We have now over 17,000 cases. Illinois shut down, California shut down, New York shut down. Businesses will go under. People are losing their jobs. They're debating right now, and get breaking news, I'll give you an update of the bill in the Senate. They're talking about direct payment to the American people. That is very much needed. And they're going to do it means testing, meaning if the proposal ends up being enacted, if you make between $0 and $75,000, you will get a check from the government. Might be $1,000, might be $1,200. The number is not determined for sure. If you make anywhere between $99,000, the money you get will be less. Anything over $99,000, you're not getting anything. But this one payment or 2 payments, it's unless this resolves soon. In April, like Donald Trump said, this is going to go for months and months. People are going to lose their homes. They're going to lose apartments, be evicted. We're going to have an uptick in homelessness. We're going to have people lose their savings. And we're going to have people lose their lives. I mean, it's like a movie. Anyone else feel like that? Like you're watching TV and you're seeing the reporters say, and today the governor of California said we're shutting the state down. And the NBA is canceling their season. And the NHL is canceling their season. And Tom Hanks says the coronavirus. It really feels like I'm watching a movie. It feels surreal. Like I'm going to wake up at any moment. Wow. That was like the most vivid movie I've ever lived through. Anyone else feel like that? Because I say that because it's so hard to grasp, but this is reality. It is so bizarre to see what is going on. And when Trump tells you it came nowhere, that's not true. And that is like 9/11. That's either. The only way this is like 9/11 is if bin Laden hijacked planes and then flew those planes for 2 months. And everybody knew the planes were coming. And they asked President Bush at the time, hey, bin Laden's coming with planes. He's going to slam into buildings. Are you ready? And he said, we got it totally. And then about the planes, the threat's a total hoax. Well, Bush didn't say that. But Trump did say those exact things while this tsunami facing our nation was coming here for 2 months. In fact, today at the press conference, Alex Azar, Secretary of Health and Human Services, said very clearly they were informed by the Chinese government in the first week of January of the outbreak there. That's when they were informed. January 20th, reminder, first outbreak on U.S. soil. This is not new. We are 2 months, literally 2 months today. 2 months ago today, the first outbreak of soil. Donald Trump asked January 20th, he said, we have it totally under control. Asked, will there be a pandemic? He said, no. Regardless of everything else, you've heard Donald Trump over and over in the last 2 months say, I've got it. It's totally under control. Nothing to worry about. Well, if that's the standard, and that's the promise, I should say, if that's his promise, he failed. He failed his promise. There's no two ways around it. He promised us there would not be a pandemic. He promised us he had it totally under control. Is this under control? I'm locked down in New York. Millions are locked down in California. Millions are locked down in this great state of Illinois. Soon my home state, Jersey, will be locked down. Maybe this nation will be locked down. People are stressed and anxious. I'm not going to say panicking yet, but stressed and anxious. Not just for the disease. This disease is horrific, by the way. I don't want to talk about the details of it because it's unnerving to no end. But the economic anxiety is in front of all of us, no matter who you are. Unless maybe you're a billionaire or half a billionaire like Donald Trump. And again, remind people, if you think you're young, not just 20 young, but any young, and this can't touch you, CDC yesterday count, very clearly nearly 40% of the people in the hospital from this virus already in the United States of America are between 20 and 55. And about 20% of those are in their 20s and 30s. And one more reminder on this disease to make people aware of this infection that nobody is immune. A 21-year-old soccer coach in June died. Good shape. How did a 21-year-old die? Did he have any underlying condition? Not that he knew about. When he got sick, it turned out he had leukemia. He didn't know he had leukemia. The disease and killed him. Because this disease will find your vulnerabilities. So you might think you have no underlying conditions. But you might because there's no symptoms and you've never been treated. That's why we must all take this seriously. That's why we are all in this together. Trump lovers and Trump haters, we're all in this together. We're not allies. It's not political. We as Americans and people, if you're on our soil, regardless of your citizenship status, you're on the soil, we are in this together. Our brothers and sisters keepers. We are the only ones that can flatten the curve. As they say down a surge. Because a surge would be horrific. Our hospitals will not have the ability to care for all who are sick. That's the reality. And by the way, to remind people, if you want, we had two great guests this week on just this pandemic. One was a doctor, Dr. Seema Yasmin, who worked at CDC for years as an infectious disease expert. She was on Tuesday. You can listen on demand. And Wednesday, we had Dorothy Davis, a psychologist, on about coping with it. From things like the loneliness and isolation some are going to feel now. Because if you're self-quarantining and you live alone, what's that like? Just the anxiety of your life being different and some having too many people. Again, that was Wednesday night. So you can listen either Tuesday or Wednesday. You can go back and over the weekend, check them out, listen on demand, both very helpful information. Of course, going forward, we will have other doctors on, other experts. We're going to have financial experts, consumer credit experts, to get people, if you're dealing with the economic side, if you're going to miss payment, what are your options? Is bankruptcy an option for you? Can you consolidate debt? We'll have that as well. So let's take a break, though. Come back. I want to hear from you. 866-997-4748. The first question I put out there, what was worse, Richard Burr insider trading or not telling America? Second, do they matter to our fellow Americans who are not like us? Because on some level, they're all showing Trump's approval ratings going up and they're handling this. And I attribute some of that to the media changed its tone. They said, oh, all of a sudden he's taking it seriously. And people are like, oh, great. That doesn't erase how we got here. And let's see how this all plays out. I'm rooting for the federal government to do the right thing overall and save lives. I want to hear from you. 86997-4748. It's a Friday. You're my guest at the top of the hour. By the way, at the top of the hour, we've got a trucker, one of the board directors of Women in Trucking, Deborah Bree. Life of trucking and the coronavirus. We talked about it with a lot of listeners. I have an article for the Daily Beast coming out about it. In fact, about truckers are the hour in the time virus outbreak. And Deborah top of the hour for a little bit talking about her work, calling her and her husband doing this, and about what she's seeing out there. She's sort of like a truckist. That's her term, but she's out there a lot, quoted a lot in the press. We're going to talk to her at the top of the next hour, so I can show them a trucker's mouth what's going on, and also the struggles and challenges truckers are facing from isolation now more than ever. Concerns about getting the virus themselves. Let's take a break. Back. I want to hear from you. 866-94748. Be right back after this.